In this episode of Financial Literacy for Beginners, we're going to talk about how to stop making bills. Cue the intro. If people knew how to do this, if people knew how to stop making bills in their lives, the financial situations for a lot of people would change immediately. Because a lot of times it's not how much money we're making, it's how we spend our money that's really keeping us in whatever situations we are in financially, or really keeping us off balance and not being able to grow at what we're doing to get to another level in our finances. So how do we get to a point where we're not creating more bills? I think one of the things you have to get to first is really the psychology of why you're spending money the way you're spending it. And I know this may be something that people don't want to think about, but I think, it's really about your mindset and how you think about money that really causes you to spend money in a certain way. And sometimes it's just a lack of education about how the economic world works. But what you can do to really get on the other side of that is really first define your needs and your wants. Sit down and really define what you need and what you want in your life. And when you write those things out, you'll start to see everything that you're spending money on and things that you shouldn't be spending money on. And that's the thing, like you really have to have a concept and a grasp of, what am I spending money on that I don't need to be spending money on? What are these things that I can really cut out of my life? So once you write those things down, just start marking off, those things that you don't need in your life, because they are the things that are really taking money out of your budget. And once you get those things in front of you, then you can say to yourself, every time you think about buying something, and this is the trick, you have to train yourself to ask yourself this question every time you buy something. Do I need this or do I want this? And if you are in a place where you're trying to save and build and do all of these other things and not create bills, the key thing you can do if it's a want is to wait a full day before you make the purchase. A lot of times, if you just take that beat and take that time before you make the purchase, whether it be a day or a few hours, whatever you need, it will give you that time not to jump into another purchase and not to create another bill. And that's the whole thing. A lot of the bills that we create, a lot of the things that we get into with our money that are not helpful for us, but are harmful for us, we do in the spur of the moment. They're impulse buys. We get into things that we know probably aren't the best idea, but because it's immediate gratification and it's in front of us and we may have the money in hand, we make those decisions to make those purchases and to get into those situations that are definitely going to come back to bite us later if we aren't budgeting correctly. So to keep from doing that, it's wise to give yourself time, give yourself space. Whenever those purchases arise, whenever you're going through a situation where something is in front of you that you have to ask yourself, is this a need or a want? If it is a want, give yourself some time. See if it's really a need, because oftentimes we end up making our wants needs. We end up turning our wants into needs oftentimes. And if you just give yourself that time, that beat, it will allow you to have a different mindset about that and allow you to make better decisions in terms of that. And I know this is not always an easy thing to do because sometimes our emotions are a huge factor in the decisions that we make. So whatever emotional state that we may be in may be driving those decisions. So in that case, to really combat that, unfortunately, we have to make it immediately painful not to do certain things. And I don't mean hurting yourself or anything like that, but what I mean is you have to understand the real effects of what you're causing and understand them immediately. And a way to do that is really to have those real bumpers of, if I do this, here are the things that are going to happen. You need to play those scenarios in your mind. If I do this, this is what's going to happen. Because sometimes you need to have that real grasp of the end result for the decisions that you're making so that you don't get into those scenarios over and over again. And that's what happens. Oftentimes people get into the same scenarios with money over and over and over again, because the situation that they're in, they're presented with a choice to do something financially that seems like a good idea at the time, but ends up turning out to be another bill as a result. So to not do that, we have to be mindful of the immediate results of what's happening in the moments that we're in. And it takes practice. It takes practice to do that. But I definitely know that you can do that. I know that it is possible. I hope this has been extremely helpful for someone. And until we talk again, I wish you health, wealth, and freedom.